Hi everyone, my name is Deandra Rodriguez and today I will be talking about Canon Incorporated. So let's get into the agenda for this video. We'll be talking about what is Canon, the history of Canon, their competitors, third-party markets, and your users' experiences. Now, many of you have probably heard of Canon at one point in your life. It is a technology company that is mainly known for their camera equipment. They were founded in 1933 in Tokyo, Japan. So let's get into a quick little timeline. In 1933, Canon was founded as a research lab. In 1934, Canon released their first camera, the Canon, shown here. In 1946, Canon released their second camera, the Canon S2. A year later, Canon changed their name to Canon Camera Company Incorporated. In 1958, the Canon Camera Company released their first SLR camera, the Canon Flex. SLR stands for single lens reflect. In 1964, the Canola 130, the world's first 10-key electronic calculator, is introduced to the market. 6 years later, Canon released Japan's first PPC, the MP 1100, to the market. Now, it would take 17 years for Canon to release a new major product to the market, and that was the EOS autofocus SLR camera, which was introduced with a range of EF lenses. It would take another 8 years for Canon to release their first DSLR camera, which are the cameras we use today, the EOS DCS3, in 1995. Now, in present time, Canon continues to produce amazing cameras, lens equipment, and much more. They know what their consumers want. They want an easy-to-use camera with easy-to-manipulate settings to take just the perfect picture. Canon is mainly known for its cameras and equipment. Thus, its main competitors are companies such as Nikon, Panasonic, and Sony. Now, Nikon is mainly known for its cameras such as the Nikon D850, which is best for professional photographers and in-studio shoots. Sadly, Nikon has not made the same advances as Canon has. For example, Canon has more pixels per frame and a greater variety of lenses and setting options for their cameras, while Nikon does not. So let's now talk about Panasonic. Panasonic is known for its Lumix brand cameras, which are great for videography. Now, the Lumix line has a higher megapixel sensor per count, which means that the images will come out clearer and be easier to edit in post-production. And so let's go into a real-world example. Now let's take the Lumix GH5 and the Canon EOS Mark higher megapixel sensor count, which means that the images will come out clearer and be easier to edit in post-production. Let's take the Lumix GH5 and the Canon EOS 5D Mark III as an example to compare these two companies. Both cameras work well with video, but the GH5 is more lightweight and has face tracking, eliminating the need to constantly refocus while shooting. The Canon EOS 5D Mark III, on the other hand, is more suited for starting videographers because it's easier to take videos with that specific DSLR camera. The body itself is on the heavier side, but it does help with learning how to use certain settings. Even though Canon does have its few flaws, it is a better known company and it has a wide selection of products that tend to dominate in the markets that it's looking for. And before I forget, let's get into Sony. Sony does have amazing cameras and it has made great technological advances in other markets, but Sony cameras, just the bodies alone, which is the camera without the lens, has starting prices of $500 and can range upwards to $5,000, which is not ideal for starting out photographers, but Canon cameras are more fairly priced, which makes it easier for starting photographers, videographers to really experiment with the product so they can move on to higher end cameras. Now, due to the fact that Canon products are on the more expensive side, most consumers like to buy from third-party markets. For example, a standard Canon brand battery pack, which is the battery, with a charger can cost upwards of $80, while companies such as LP are selling a similar product that's compatible with most Canon cameras with a starting price of $10. Even with their lenses, brands such as Tamron sell lenses for a fraction of the price of Canon lenses, and they work the same. Now, there is also a third company I want to talk about, which is Magic Lantern. It is a free software add-on that runs from an SD or CF card, which is the card you put into the camera, and it adds new features onto any Canon EOS camera that aren't included through a regular factory Canon. Now, these third-party brands make it easier for starting creators to expand their craft until they can really get into buying and being able to afford the full Canon line. It also makes it easier if you're just needing a quick replacement. It's easier to get from a third-party market than have to look everywhere in stores for Canon. We can just easily order half of these products off of Amazon. Now that you've heard about the Canon company from me, let's hear from two of their users, Jordan Pressler and Brian Rosado. Jordan Pressler is a photographer. She goes by the handle on Instagram at Photos by Jordan B. And Brian Rosado, who is a videographer and a photographer, which is their photography account is at One Lens. So let's hear what they got to say about Canon.
Hi, my name's Jordan, and I've been a photographer for about 6 years now, and I feel that Canon is the best choice to go with. That's just my opinion. But Canon was actually not the first camera I tried out. I tried out Sony, Nikon, and ultimately ended up with Canon, and ever since I haven't switched. I feel that it's best suited for photography. Its user-friendly interface is something that other companies can't really compete with, and I think that they offer such a good variety of cameras that suit the needs from beginner photographers all the way to professional photography. And so I have nothing but good things to say about Canon. So
my name is Brian Rosado. I am a content creator. I run an Instagram page, One Lens. Yes, I just did plug myself. So here I'm going to talk about Canon real quick, just kind of why I use it, why I think at least for beginners, it's a little easier than some of the camera brands that are out there. First off, the camera that I use is the Canon 6D with a 24 to 105 millimeter lens. It's honestly, this camera right here is just your very versatile all-in-one camera. It does photos, it does video. The reason why I like Canon myself personally is, that's the brand that I started with, but it's just very easy, user-friendly. It's very user-friendly as opposed to some of the other cameras that I've used. I have used Nikons before for work, and it's just, it's not as user-friendly as I would like it to be. A woman came to me recently and just said, "Can you teach me how to use my Nikon?" And I did, but it takes me an extra minute to kind of figure out the things for myself because I'm so used to everything kind of just being along these, like this buttons right here and kind of here, or as opposed to most of like the settings. If you ever look at an icon, it's like there's buttons on the side there and this and that. Imagine you look at this camera and it's already overwhelming to the average user, especially if they don't know, and you just look at it and you're just like, I'm not sure. And sometimes people hesitate because there's so many buttons, whereas the Canon, first time I got my hands on a Canon, it was like the oldest Canon was like one of the oldest Canons was Canon 30D. It was just, and it still was able to figure it out very easily and get quality pictures out of it. So I use this Canon 6D. Very versatile. I also use this Canon film camera. It's called the Elan 7. And honestly, it's has a very similar feel as the other Canon cameras, and kind of a similar type of style. So they do remain consistent on how they make their cameras, and because of that, that's why I've stuck with them for so long, and I've been able to produce some very beautiful content.
Okay. Backup sign off, Mark 1. So now that you guys heard these users' experiences, I want to enter a little bit of my own. I have personally been a Canon user for the past 4 years. I love their cameras. I even used the Rebel T line, which is their more economical line. They're cheaper cameras. They're not as high tech as the EOS line, but it's almost the same thing. I personally love the EOS line more than the Rebel T line, but they're all amazing products. Canon really knows what their consumer market is. They really do hit all economic standpoints, and they know that they have these third-party markets, and I've used those products too. It is great products. They really are an amazing company. I've personally also used Nikon and Panasonic. I haven't gotten into Sony cameras yet. That's a future goal. But Canon really does know their consumers, and even though cameras is just a portion of their products, that is what they're focused on because that's what they know their users want. They also have printers, medical equipment, calculators, and a whole bunch more products. But honestly, Canon is an amazing company. I suggest that hopefully one day you guys will be able to pick up a Canon camera and be able to do amazing things with it. So thank you everyone for listening to my presentation. If you have any comments or questions, since this is on YouTube, comment down below, or if you're in my class, just feel free to email me. Also, you can follow my photography account at ddrodzel on Instagram. And I hope everyone has a blessed day and is doing well with these hard times of coronavirus. Bye everyone.